Hi!
Hi.
As promised last week, we are here with a dessert recipe. This time being the delicious looking Black Forest cake from the Captive Curse. Yum!
Well, we haven't tried it yet, so like, how enthusiastic can we be?
Anyway, first things, we are going to get our cake itself baking so we can get that underway. This is going to take a little while, so
let's get to that. Get your oven preheating at 350,
yes.
and then let's mix that batter.
I'm sure we'll have mess to amuse you with as we proceed. Starting off, we are going to take 2 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar and put them in a mixing bowl. Next, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. We're also going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Lastly, to this dry mixture, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Now we're going to mix our dry ingredients together. Now we're going to add our liquid ingredients. We're going to add 1 cup of buttermilk.
And if you don't have buttermilk, you can just add some lemon juice to your regular milk to get that.
We're going to add 2 large eggs. Half a cup of vegetable oil. Gonna give that a little stir. And 2 teaspoons of vanilla, which I forgot. It's going to be really thick at this point, so once you have it approximately blended, you're going to add 1 cup of hot water, and you're going to want to stir that in pretty quickly. But we don't want to add it until we've mixed our other stuff some because we don't want our egg to cook.
We don't want scrambled eggs in our cake.
And we're going to stir that for a minute until it's well blended. Next, we are going to take our cake pans and prep them. We're going to spray those down and dust them with cocoa powder and shake that all around. Now that we have our cake pans ready, we're going to divide the batter up evenly between the two. And then it's gonna go in the oven.
For 45 minutes or until done.
And we'll be back in 45 minutes to see how it's looking.
Alright, it's been 45 minutes.
And we're gonna check on our cake. Looks good, it looks pretty solid. Will you grab that toothpick there? We'll stick it in the middle and see if that comes out clean. Yep, we're good. Alright, so we're gonna let this cool for about 15 minutes before we bother taking it out of the trays. So again, we'll be back in 15 minutes to get back to work on the cake. Alright, so it's been about 15 minutes. We've given the cake time to cool off a little.
Yeah.
Now at this point, we're going to take it out of the pans and set that aside to finish cooling off while we prep the rest of our food. The nice thing about these trays is you can just skim this little tab around to loosen the bottom.
And then we're just gonna put them on the cooling tray.
So let's talk about what we're going to be doing on the cake itself. Now, since this is a Black Forest cake, we do need cherries. You can cook your cherries ahead of time with some sugar and make like a cherry sauce, but honestly, I wanted a very fresh flavor, so we are just going to use straight up cherries. It's a little out of season here right now for fresh ones, so we are using frozen that we have thawed out. If you've got fresh, by all means use them. But if you are using frozen, side note, definitely save the liquid from this once it thaws out because we're going to put that on our cake layers.
Ooh.
So anyway, what we're going to do right now is we are going to take our cherries and slice all of those in half and set those aside. As for amounts, I would say about 2.5 cups approximately. This bag says it's got 3 cups in it, but honestly it's usually a little bit less once it thaws down. So about 2.5 to 3 cups of cherries. Next, we are going to start on our whipped cream, which is what we're going to be using instead of frosting for this particular cake.
I love whipped cream.
For that, we're going to take 3 cups of heavy cream, put that in a bowl. Then we are going to take a 1/2 cup of powdered sugar and add that to our cream. You can also add a few drops of vanilla if you want to, but that is optional.
And now she's gonna make a big old mess because that's what she does every time she uses a hand blender.
It goes everywhere in this. Our whipped cream is ready, and now what we're gonna do, we are making a 4-layer cake, which means we're gonna take each of the 2 layers that we made and we're gonna slice those in half lengthwise. So for this, you're going to need a large knife and a steady hand. Now at this point, we're ready to get started. So we're gonna get a large plate to make our cake onto.
A large plate.
And then we are going to put our first cake layer on there. I think I'm going to start off with one of the bottom layers because they're flatter. And then what we're going to do to make sure we have all that good cherry flavor in there that we can get, we're going to take a pastry brush and we're going to brush some of that cherry juice across the top. And we're going to do this for each layer. If you have a cherry flavored syrup, you can definitely use that. Since this had so much cherry juice in the bag, you could totally cook it down on the stove a bit, reduce it, get it nice and thick. But we're running out of daylight, so we are just going to use the juice as is. So we will be doing a layer of first cherries. We're going to do about a 1/4 to a 1/3 on each layer, and then we are going to spread whipped cream over that, and then proceed with our layers. And final note on prepping the cake, when you get to the top layer, we're not going to do a layer of cherries before we do whipped cream. We're just going to do whipped cream along the top and the sides and frost it like you would a regular cake. If I wasn't making it to match, I would leave the sides unfrosted because it looks pretty that way. So let's talk about decorating. We have with us a bar of dark chocolate. You can use dark or semi-sweet, but I probably wouldn't go with a milk chocolate for this particular cake. And now what we're gonna do is we are just gonna do little shavings of this across just the top of the cake, not the sides. So for that, I am going to be using a vegetable peeler today. And this is actually gonna use much less chocolate than I expected, so you definitely don't need an entire bar. think that's enough for the top. So now we are going to take our remaining little bit of whipped cream. We're going to do some little dollops around the edge. And this is the point where you would take any remaining cherries you have and put a cherry on top of each dollop. So I wasn't thinking, I went ahead and cut all of the cherries up. We needed some whole for garnishing the top. That did not happen. Don't be like me, set aside at least a half dozen to a dozen cherries for decorating. Our cake is finished! Ah! Now that we are almost out of daylight. Okay, this looks fantastic. I kind of want a picture of it whole first. All right. Okay.
Nice and moist.
This is definitely a heavy chocolate cake, so I would definitely not do any less whipped cream than this amount we did here, because that's gonna be way too much cake without something light breaking.
I don't like. It's not as dense as the Shadow Ranch cake. By any means. It's a lot lighter and fluffier
than that, but it's still not a very light cake.
I actually don't mind it.
With the amount of cocoa in this, it's gonna be a cake. If you ate that entire slice that we split between the two of us, yeah, no, you're good. You're going to bed for today. Poor Renata.
And even Nancy
But at least she had
breaking
sweet
through your
dreams.
bag won't wake you up.
Nancy didn't need to be careful at that point. Wasn't nobody waking up for anything. Castle could have been on fire. She'd be good.
But like the fruit in it kind of lightens it as well. And plus it's a very light frosting. I mean, whipped cream is about.
I think this could have used some more cherries because that bag, I guess it might have been about 3 cups. But for the size of this cake, you could definitely add more cherries and be fine. You could do like an even layer of cherries across each layer. Easy.
I think I would definitely recommend using fresh cherries. Frozen cherries are still fine.
Yeah, use fresh if you've got them, but if not, frozen will do.
This is pretty
The
good.
bites I'm getting with cherry definitely do go well together. I just wish there was more cherry. So you could probably even double the cherry amount if you wanted
This
to.
may be one of the tastiest desserts we made on here.
You know, honestly, since we had so much cherry juice, if you drained your cherries before you ever made the cake, I think you could totally added the cherry juice to the amount of water. And then like 1 cup of however much cherry juice you have, and then hot water in addition to that, and tried to get a little extra cherry flavor into the cake, and that would have been good too. Just ideas for reference. This is good though, but it is very heavy.
I like with it split, it's still almost too much. That piece would have been way too much.
Yeah, I'm about at my limit right now, and I haven't even had dinner yet.
It's good though. It's
Definitely.
worth the food coma.
I need to just frost more cakes with whipped cream because this is so good. Better than most frostings, honestly.
It's like I love how light the frosting is. The cake is pretty heavy, but
Anyway, that's it for today's recipe. We are actually not going to be finishing the rest of this cake right now like we usually do with our recipes after filming. I would die. I might finish this cake over the course of the next month, but probably I'm going to have to split it up with various friends and family. But yeah, that's it for today. Let us know what you think of the recipe. If you could reimagine Black Forest cake to be like whatever kind of cake and fruit combo with the whipped cream, what would your dream combo be?
oh my goodness.
That's enough sugar for her for tonight. So we are going to go. We'll be back next week with another recipe for all you. Hopefully this has been a helpful experience. If it hasn't been, well, I guess you can tell us. It won't hurt our feelings too much. And we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye. Well, Emily's over there worrying about accuracy.